Hey, welcome back. Coolness. Um, the lesson today is all about getting your strum smooth. Okay. I had a couple of questions from some fellow players of mine about, and they were just basically asking, how do you get your strum so, how do I get your strum so rhythmic and so in tempo? And I don't know that I actually, no one really taught me how to do this. It was one of those things that using my ears and listening to the music that I was listening to at the time I was learning to play and my innate sense of rhythm. Like I said, I started as a drummer when I was 13, so I've got a next level understanding of rhythm. But it wasn't really great. It translated well to guitar in that I understood rhythm, but I didn't really get my strum really perfected for many years. And it's because I wasn't watching the mechanics of what I was doing. So today we're going to talk about the mechanics. And all this whole lesson, you just watch this hand, watch this arm. My strum is based on the principle of downbeats and upbeats, alternate strokes, okay? Alternate strums, okay? And the way that works is when you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, those are downbeats, right? If you count 1, 2, 3, 4 and only play on the eighth note, the upbeat, right? Those are downbeats, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we've got upbeats in between those. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? So what we wind up with is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The trick to getting your strum smooth is to always keep that arm in motion. Always keep that elbow right there on a pivot, okay? It's always counting for you. This is your metronome when you're strumming. This. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Like that, okay? Always keep your arm moving. Always. Always have your downbeats in place. Even if you're not going to strum it, right? Always keep your downbeat going. Use your left hand to mute when you need to. If you want to stop the sound. Or you can use your right hand. Okay, but you're still moving that arm the whole time. Never stop moving your arm. Always keep it going. Now that's perfect for the big open strums with the cowboy chords. Require you to make your chord changes really quick. You've got to be there for that next chord. Those fingers have to be there for that next chord. Always keep this moving though. Always. Never stop. Even if you're not going to play anything, never stop. That's your metronome. That's going to count. Those are your downbeats right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then according to whatever song you're listening to, you'll add upbeats in the places where they need to go. And that also works for bar chords. But you're going to use this hand to actually aid you in forming those or letting those chords ring out, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep eighth notes going here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And what I'm going to do with this hand is actually press down when I want the chord to sound and lift off when I want to mute it. Both hands in conjunction is going to give you a much smoother rhythm when you're strumming, okay? And that's true for whether it's clean or it's distorted. notes I'm throwing in there in between follow that same rule. Both hands together will improve your strumming technique a great deal. Now, we're not going to talk about alternate picking technique just yet. We will in future episodes. Alternate picking technique is really important to soloing, and that too will help you establish a much better sense of rhythm when you're strumming. The open chords, though, when you're just strumming those big open chords, you gotta get that. Very common song, an old Bob Seger song called Night Moves, and he illustrates the need to keep that arm always in motion, okay, when you're playing the chords. Here's the chord progression. Let's get those upbeats. Listen for the upbeats. Partially my arm always in motion, and partially my left hand fretting the chords that need to be played. Fretting on the upbeat. Look at my arm, never stops. One way to improve your strum is to always have a metronome going. Always. Set it at a comfortable tempo, anywhere between 80 and 100, and set it for quarter notes. Okay? Now, and then practice just those downstrokes. Get them nice and smooth. And then add the upstrokes. Never stop moving your arm. Never stop moving it. Always keep it going. That's the pulse. That's the heartbeat of what you're doing when you're strumming. That arm is your metronome, essentially. Then you can experiment with different patterns. Again, with that Bob Seger pattern I just played for you, I'm using both right and left hands to mute the strings when I don't want the strum to be there. That's right hand. Pulling the fingers away so that the chord doesn't sound. And I'm just adding upstrokes in between. I'm just adding upstrokes in there to get the chord progression correct, the strum pattern right. but I'm using my hands to make sure that I don't hear chords I don't want to hear. Always, the key thing is to always keep your arm moving and play with a metronome. We're gonna talk more about the importance of a metronome. I started out as a drummer, but even I needed to have a metronome handy to make sure that my tempo was always smooth, right? I wasn't rushing anything. I wasn't ahead of the beat. I wasn't behind the beat. I was right on top of it all the time. Get a metronome, set it for quarter notes. You can find a metronome if you've got a tuner, it more than likely has a metronome function built in. Pick somewhere between, we'll say 80 and 120, maybe 90 and 120, okay, for your time. And then listen to the clicks or the sound that comes out of the metronome and make your downstrokes happen at precisely that moment. Click, 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 okay? And then if you want to progress further, you can set your metronome for quarter notes or eighth notes or triplets or whatever you want. Most of them will let you set, specific time values for that click. Set it first for quarter notes. Work on just that downstroke. Get that nice and smooth and natural. Feel it, okay? It's got to feel completely natural. Perfect, okay? Then set it for eighth notes and then work on just the eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Those eighth notes are the upstroke. Downbeat is a downstroke. Upbeat is an upstroke. Work on that and get those eighth notes smooth. And then pick a chord, any chord. Let's say a bar chord, right? Let's do that big bar chord G. Put that on 1, 2, well, 1 and 3. And move that around. Try different bar chord positions. Try different bar chords. Try the next one. Get the downbeat smooth first. Do that first. Work on your downbeats. You don't necessarily have to strum a chord to do it. You can mute the strings and just work on that strum, but always keep that arm moving. If you'll see any of the videos that you see me do, if I'm doing any sort of strumming pattern, you will see this arm is always moving, always giving me my downbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4, every time. And it's because I developed that over years. It was not something I learned overnight. Again, I didn't take lessons. Everything I learned, I had to learn by doing wrong first. And then I found out what worked, and I adopted that. That was the basic technique, the mechanics of strumming, okay? And the first guitar player that I really, I guess you could say, studied as far as rhythm guitar went was Pete Townsend. And Pete had the best, most fluid strumming I'd ever seen, either on electric or acoustic. Best, right? He was so good. His strum was so smooth and so accurate. And, it was important for me to understand how, not only why he was doing it that way, but how he was doing it. And I began to notice, as a drummer, I understand downbeats and upbeats. I began to understand, well, his hand is always moving downward on a downbeat, and his hand is always moving upward on an upbeat. That's how I learned to do my strums. So smooth and so accurate was downbeat, upbeat, downbeat, upbeat. Okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay? And even if you're just playing quarter notes, you don't want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. You want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. This is always moving to the downbeat. Always. It's always moving downward to the downbeat. If I want to add an upbeat, I can either grip with the left hand to get the chord right, or I can lean in with the pick. When you pick downward, if you don't want to hear the upbeat afterwards, the upstroke, what you're going to wind up doing is you're either going to angle your hand like this and then come up, then angle it back down for the downbeat. It's a smooth motion. You see that? I'm rolling my hand back and forth so that if I don't want to hear the upbeat, the upstroke, I just roll my hand. My pick is literally, if I pull my pick out, I should have kept my pick in my hand. If I roll my hand this way, I'm moving my pick out of the way, away from the strings. Then I put it back down. That's something else that you will eventually learn to do if you work on it, right? 1, 1. There's my 1, right? If I'm going to pick downward, if I'm going to strum downward, I'm going to have the pick inward, right, towards the guitar. I'm going to go down, right? And then I'm going to roll my hand back, and what that does is it lifts the tip of the pick away from the strings. And then you come back up. You're constantly rolling your hand sort of back and forth. It's really, now that I look at it after a few years, when I started teaching guitar, I began to examine the mechanics of what I do and how I do it. And it wasn't until I actually took the time to look at my strumming that I began to notice, well, not only am I using this hand to grip the chords I want to hear, but I'm also rolling my hand slightly to pull the pick away from the strings. And it's a smooth motion. It's a little circle, like that. I'm making a little circle with my hand. But the arm is always moving, always. Let that be the guide for this lesson. Keep your arm moving, no matter what. Even if you're not going to strum a chord, keep your arm moving. Even if you don't want to hear that muted guitar sound, work with it anyway at first. Use that, and it'll help you develop a much smoother strum. So that's all I've got for today. Upcoming lessons, we're going to be working on hammer-ons and pull-offs. We're going to be working on combining string bends and vibrato and all kinds of neat little things. We're going to work on, we're going to talk about how to achieve those legato lines that you hear the pros do that just sound so good. And, you know, that's hammer-ons and pull-offs. How not to pick so much. Economy of picking. How not to pick. I'm going to teach you how not to pick. That seems kind of silly, but I'm going to teach you how not to pick, but still make really great lines. Okay? All right, so my brothers, thanks again for watching. Leave comments. If there's anything you want to see, or if I didn't explain something well enough, leave a comment and let me know, and I will respond to it as quickly as I possibly can, either with a new video, or I'll just leave a reply to the comment, and we'll get it fixed up for you. Anything I'm doing you don't understand, let me know. I don't mind. I'm having fun doing this. It's great. These are master level, you know, classes that I don't get to teach to my students very often, because most of the students that I get are either beginners, flat beginners, or they've played guitar for maybe 2 years, 3 years, whatever, and they're just not very good at it yet. So these master level things, these upper level things, the next level stuff, I enjoy doing this. It's a lot of fun. So, peace.